Hello guys, myself Yash Patidar. Today I am going to present the online auction data system in my subscribers management system, and my goal is to teach you and how I made my AR diagram in this project. And my topic name is online auction presentation. Our group member is Yash Patidar and Aniruddha Sahu, Abhinav Kaushal, and Vikash Sharma. So first and foremost thing, we are going to do the explanation of AR diagram. So let's get into it now. But what is ER diagram is actually entity relationship diagram. The name of the ER diagram is entity relationship diagram. Now there are entities in our database, and the relationship between both the entities or numerous entities are going to explanation is ER diagram. So we have to make a diagram where we have to represent a relationship between two entities, and that's we call as ER diagram. Now the definition of ER diagram is like we can say that ER diagram is a diagram that displays the relationship of entities that's stored in a database. And, first thing is like consider an online auction database system and members either be a buyer or seller. So members can be buyer or can be a seller. Now, participate in the sale of items. Okay, so there is only a database system. There are the items, and there are buyers who is going to buy something from the sellers. Okay, so seller has to show their items, and buyer then will buy the item, and the transaction is completed. Now the main task and the requirements of this data is online set of members, each of whom is identified by a unique member number and is described by an email address, name, password, home address, and phone number. Now the main important thing about this online site is that okay, so we have an entity called member, and this is a unique member number. It's also called as a primary key in database. So unique member number and is set by an email. So there is a unique member number, email address, name, password, and home address, and phone number of every member in that database. Okay. So the second thing, the member may be buyer or a seller. A buyer has a shipping address recorded in the database. A seller has a bank account number and routing number recorded in the database. So we can assume that there is a member and they both have buyer and the seller. So you can think of that thing like a member is a buyer or a seller. Okay, so let's get into the diagram. Okay, so you can see that the buyer is an entity and seller is also an entity. So they are the members. Okay, actually they are members, so each of an uniquely identified key. So this in buyer, the attribute called is BID, which is buyer ID, and in seller the attribute called seller ID. Now you can see that the seller ID and buyer ID are underlined. It's because they are uniquely identified, like the name, address, password, shipping address, email. But there must be a there must be BID, which is uniquely identified both the persons. Okay. Items are placed by seller for sale and identify unique item number assigned by the system. Items are also described by an item title, description, starting bid price, bidding increment, the start date of the auction, and the end date of the auction. Now, the buyer is going to take a bid. Okay, like they are going to bid an item. So the first and foremost thing here is like we can see that buyer is going to bid. Bid is a table. Okay, now buyer is going to place a bid. So there's a relationship between price bid and bids table, bids entity, and bids entity is lies in the item. So there's a relationship bid in the item. Okay, bids are present in the item now. So like if buyer buys the item, so there are BID, status, price, transaction ID, and time. Now items have item number, start date, bidding increment, starting bid price, description, title, and date. So these are the things that are in the items entity. Okay. 40. Items are also categorized based on a classification hierarchy. For example, a modem may be classified computer hardware modem. Now, items are belongs to categories. There is a categories entity. So items are classified or belongs to categories. Items have modem. Okay. So you can see that modem is considered as hardware, and then computer. So computer is present in the hardware, and then modem. So super category is the computer, and then hardware is the subcategory, and then category, actual category. Buyer placed the bid at that time. The each buyer each buy bids have its unique ID, BID ID, and status like it's sold or not sold. Now price and the actual price of the item. Now 13 transaction ID. Oh, sorry, auction ID. So the auction ID is the actual auction ID of that auction. Okay, it's not like multiple buyers have same auction ID. Like they are in the place of an auction ID. So auction ID is the same as item ID. You can see that like auction ID may be different from item, but it's a auction where all the bidders are going to bid the place. Okay, now so the time is the when the auction is going to present, like auction is going to help. Now these are the attributes of bids entity. Buyer does payment. Okay, so buyer is going to payment to a seller if he is going to buy the item. Now, buyer does payment, and there is a transaction entity which is going to record each and every transaction. Okay, the actual amount and the time of the transaction. Now, if there is a transaction between buyer and seller, then there must be feedback. Main item is which is the item. So we have to take something from which item is going to like is going to purchase or is going in the transaction. Okay, so that's why there is a relationship between items and transaction. Now you might have some questions because not every attributes are not in the in oval shape. Some might be in double oval shape, and some might be in dashed shape. So why they are from the phone number is multi-valued operative. So it might be possible that there is a multiple value of phone number. So that's why it's called as multi-valued operator, and it's represented by double oval. Okay, now next thing, you can see that the entity is feedback. So why it's a feedback is a weak. We can call them as weak entity because, like, we can't differentiate each and every tuples easily. There is no uniquely identified keys in the this entity, so we can call feedback as a very weak entity. Okay, now and that is derived attribute. So it's already derived. Like we have start where the value of start date. Now the database is this database can calculate the actual timing of actual timing at that time. So the end date, like the difference between the actual time and the start date. You can see that there's a relationship, one to one relationship, many to one relationship. Like this is a relationship between the each and every entities. There is a relationship between buyer and a bid. So buyer each buyer can take multiple bids. Okay, each buyer can take a multiple bid. So there is a one to one minutes. Like each bid is taken by buyer. Like it's might be possible that 2000 is a bid for some product, but it's not be placed by multiple buyers. Okay, it's only placed by one single buyer. So there is only one relationship between buyer or between bids and buyer, and there is a multiple relationship. Like each buyer can take a multiple bids. Okay, so there is a one to many relationship. Thank you guys.